Welcome back to the show, everybody. We've got an explosive one for you. Sundays is still a crypto day. And boy, do we love to smell a crypto in the morning. We got big things, ladies and gentlemen. Controlled demolition of the petrodollar. ETHgate insider breaks his silence. JPMorgan has an XRP fund. Oh, I thought they said banks wouldn't hold it. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on Twitter and YouTube for exclusive content. Right now, $1.1 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is flat this morning, but the news isn't, and you're going to like it. Bitcoin, 26,500 right now plus, and we see Ethereum, 1630 and change. Tether market cap, 83 billion plus, and XRP is 49 cents. It is off by 0.5% right now in the 24-hour and 0.3 on the 7-day. Let's get started with this. This is a clip here of Andy Schectman from Miles Franklin Company, Precious Metals. It is the best opportunity to get your physical allocated gold or physical gold in your hands. And I'm going to tell you, you get the best prices if you use the code that I have called DIG Gold, D-I-G Gold. But I want you to hear what he says here, because I have said for a while that I believe what is happening with the petrodollar is to the coordination and the blessing of the United States of the controlled demolition of the petrodollar. And listen to what Andy says, much the same. Shout out to Daniela Cambone from Stansberry Research.
How the hell else, Daniela, do you get everyone who watches your show who said, I'm not taking a CBDC, not a chance in hell? Well, guess what? The $155 trillion in debt that the U.S. has, $32 trillion on balance sheet, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and government military pensions, $120 trillion, that's owed to the American public, mostly. And as China and Japan and Saudi Arabia dump treasuries, who's buying them all? The American public. So if you create an event, purposely, knowingly, you push away Saudi Arabia, you create this event where the dollar, we're not clinging to the privilege of the world reserves currency, just like the number one economic advisor in this country would like. Instead, we are incentivizing de-dollarization and ultimately that moment where there's an event created, where, by the government's own admission, we have $5 trillion in assets backing $155 trillion in debt, the largest asset. 40% of our assets are student debt. What I'm getting at is you create an event because you'll never pay that debt off, ever. There's no way you can pay that off without completely getting rid of entitlements and stop spending and do all of these things that won't work in this country. So you create an event, you have a villain, Xi Jinping and Putin and OPEC. How could they have done this to us? They dumped the dollars, look what they've done, and bang, everything collapses. And everything collapses at the exact same time. Stocks, bonds, real estate, the dollar, pensions, 401ks, the banks, everything. But have no fear, because Lael Brainerd is here, and she's a modern monetary theorist who ran Point for Fed now, has been dealing with the CBDC with MIT, and all you need to do is sign on the dotted line, and we'll make you whole. In other words, what I'm getting at is, could this have all been thought out? How else do you reset? How else do you find a villain to blame for the collapsing of the system that allows you to default and start over and allows the American people to be made whole by signing on to a modern monetary theorist's dream of a central bank digital currency? Sign on.
There you have it right there. I mean, this is what we've been talking about. Shout out to Andy Schectman and Daniela Cambone from Stansberry Research. Again, this is where you can get physical gold at the best prices if you use the code, call the number, use the email that I provided, and tell them dig gold. Because I tell you, you can't have a reset without everybody resetting. Something's coming. Right here. This is something interesting here, too. I mean, listen, Link2 was already doing amazing things, and they're offering right now 10% off on PolySign, but there's a new $2,500 minimum for investment. They are doing everything they possibly can to kick down the walls that the government agencies and the government has put in place, because we all know that it is difficult to get into the private equity world. Well, I tell you what, contact them and find out what you can do, because I tell you, this is a hell of an opportunity. $2,500 minimums, 10% off PolySign through Monday. It doesn't last long. The stuff could sell out today. Link underneath the video for link to. Check this out. Regulatory capture, ladies and gentlemen. I have said it, and I believe it, and John Deaton is pretty much saying it here too. The Department of Justice is 100% compromised, like the SEC, as well as most every other federal agency, needs to be cleaned out and reshaped. Make no mistake about it. If Sam Bankman-Fraud's parents weren't connected to Elizabeth Warren and weren't huge donors to the Democratic Party, then you know the rest of it. Then none of this would have happened for Sam Bankman-Fraud getting those licenses, right? That's what it appears. And regulatory capture is a disease in our U.S. government and agencies. Vote them out, put term limits in, and then we'll start to have something that looks a little more like what we should have, at least. Term limits is the biggie, right? Let's start right there. But you know what? It's the one thing that both parties and both sides of the aisle will always agree to fight us back on, right? Isn't that the truth? Sam Bankman-Fried's FTX donations of millions of dollars in stolen customer funds to House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. Wait a minute, that's the right side of the aisle. I thought he was the biggest Democrat donor. He was, but as I have said, this is why I've always said Congress could stop Gary Goldman Gensler and the SEC's overreach and allowing bad actors special purpose broker-dealer licenses like Prometheum as well as FTX if they wanted to, but they don't, because dirty money made its way to both sides of the aisle and all of their pockets. All we hear is soapbox talk and political posturing, and now you know why. But it's decentralized. Oh boy, I tell you, here it is, not so decentralized. Ethereum has developers scrambling. Ethereum's overhaul sends developers scrambling for another fix. But I thought it was decentralized. How can they fix it? It's decentralized. Unless it's centrally controlled, then you could fix it. And here we have Steven Nureyev here, and shout out to Steven for his courageous moment stepping forth here and speaking out and becoming a whistleblower. This here is another repeat of what he's doubling down on here, letting all of us know that something went wrong here. He said former SEC chair was Joe Grunfest, who has integrity, which seems out of fashion as to the number. I now realize one can't tell the true number of ETH ICO buyers, as it was explained by some how whales could disguise their large positions during the ICO. Violation of term of service against speculative buying, ? Hard to imagine anyone Ethereum doing this, and if they knew others who did, surely they would have told the SEC regarding concentration of ETH holdings before Bill Hinman's law was enacted. I might have the doc versions by author of terms of service amongst countless documents, recordings, all stored in a number of locations. I may not have knowledge or items of importance given claims I exaggerated my role, though I guess it's possible I got some info. I was lucky enough to talk to an important co-founder. Either way, I suppose an effective way to silence me would be to prosecute, publicly discredit, and ultimately attempt to imprison me. Turns out this is actually what happened to me for the past 4 years until I proved that the entire case was fabricated from the government's own documents, including the SEC, and got an almost unprecedented dismissal with prejudice. Are you hearing what he is explaining here? Steven Nureyev here is explaining that all of what we've known to be is absolutely real. He is absolutely telling you that he's got records and documents of all of this, and that nobody has really acknowledged the concentration of ETH holdings. Oh, I have a feeling that this is about to get a lot bigger, ladies and gentlemen. A lot bigger. Stephen, appreciate your courageous moment in coming out and standing up here. We are all with you. Anyone starts looking into everything, including what the government did against Nureyev here, it says dropping all charges against him after he made it clear that he would fight back and seek full discovery. You don't have to wear a tinfoil hat to suspect multi-agency coordination with the SEC taking lead. Oh boy, I tell you what, I love John Deaton to come in and represent this guy and get subpoena power. And shout out to this guy, meet Norman Reed, who just joined Ripple Labs as general counsel. Now, this is from back in 2015, and I have met this gentleman, and he is a very nice guy and super, super smart. He's also former SEC and Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and he has just been announced as this new CEO of Binance US. But what could that really mean? John Deaton says Norman Reed used to be the general counsel of Ripple. His signature on the 2015 FinCEN Department of Justice settlement with Ripple, which classified, he was representing Ripple as general counsel, which classified XRP as a convertible virtual currency. By the way, Katie Hawn signed the settlement agreement on behalf of the Department of Justice as a part of the settlement. Norman Reed, on behalf of Ripple, agreed to hire an independent auditor approved by the Department of Justice who would provide FinCEN with audit of all XRP sales for 5 years. Of course, pursuant to an information sharing agreement between FinCEN and the SEC, the SEC had full access to all of the auditor's XRP sales reports. And by the way, side note, and they still sued Ripple over XRP. I've always maintained that the SEC and the U.S. government knew about Ripple than any other company involved in crypto. That really places the lawsuit in perspective now, doesn't it? You're damn right. It sure was used as a weapon. Norman Reed not jumping ship and staying with Binance could be a positive sign, but then again, Jeremy Hogan leans into the then again part. He says, I'm not so sure about this. When your general counsel is becoming your CEO, that doesn't seem like a growth play. John Deaton says, I don't disagree with you. Ever since the DOJ, SEC, CFTC lawsuits, I've assumed Binance US is likely not going to be a part of the future. I guess I was more thinking that since he didn't jump ship like others, maybe that could be seen as a positive in mostly negative world. And you know what? Who knows? Maybe we see Ripple acquire him. Hey, Brad Garlinghouse, look at this. It appears that R3 seems to be facing financial difficulties, laying off 90 people out of the hundreds that work there. Edo Farina says, imagine if Ripple ends up acquiring R3. And I say, hey, Brad Garlinghouse, looks like R3's having some money troubles. This will be massive power move. Ripple acquires R3 equals Swift. Checkmate. Come on in. Yeah, that's what's going on there. And meanwhile, as far as XRP price goes, we're waiting for it to break $1 because I know everybody gets excited when it breaks $1. FOMO kicks in when that $1 mark hits. You know, we may be there sooner than we think. We don't know. But I'll tell you what, I'm damn sure down for this. We might be in this point here. We're waiting for a wave 2 correction here or to finish out so we can start wave 3. Wave 3, 4, and 5. That's what I'm here for, baby. And if I got to wait to 24, 25, or whatever, look, I'm here for the duration. So buckle up, because I'm not going anywhere. And I hope you don't either. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. We got great news on this Sunday. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe for me. Let's grow this channel while we're here, because we're here for the duration, ladies and gentlemen. I'll catch all of you on the next one.